Alright. Alright, just tell me when you're ready. Alright, 3, 2, 1. As you go through life, you can see life, but the real question is, can you really see life? You may see the gleam and glory, but not fully understand what it took to get to that point. I've been raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma my entire life. I've seen it develop throughout the years, through the 18 years that I've lived here. I've seen the development of the gathering place on Riverside, and I've seen the development of the Greenwood district downtown. However, we're going to take it back some years more into a little bit into history to the very beginning, through 3 historical highlighting points of Tulsa. The 3 points that we're going to be talking about are the Trail of Tears. Second point we're going to be talking about is the oil wealth production. And the third point we're going to be talking about is the Tulsa Race Massacre. So, diving into it, Tulsa first started with the Trail of Tears. Andrew Jackson, he moved 60,000 plus forcibly Indians from Southeast America to the west. And there was many different tribes that relocated as they slowly went through. But overall, it was a 5,000-mile trek, and many of them ended up settling down. Many of the tribes ended up settling down in Oklahoma. And the trek was 5,000 miles itself, and I don't even know someone that'll go out and get groceries anymore, because every grocery now gets shipped to our house. So, let alone do 5,000 miles. But in all seriousness, there was around 4,000 people that died. There's around 4,000 people that died through it because of disease and starvation, and the families and friends had to bury them along the way. The Tulsa, Oklahoma History Org says, after arriving here in 1833, the Lower Creek settled in present-day Tulsa, negotiating a treaty with the Cherokee and positioning the boundaries between the 2 nations. Now we're going to move ahead some years, going now closer to 1981. Tulsa was more of a cow town, a farmer's town. However, just like a snap of that, it changed into one of the wealthiest cities in America. And you're going to be asking how. The main thing, which is the only thing, only one word, oil. And just like everyone that is smart that moved for California to the gold rush, every investor, every person came moving in to Tulsa to get the money from oil. So there's mass amount of people that moved in 1901 getting that. Now in 1905, there's a neighboring town called Glenpool, which had even more of an amount of oil that was found, bringing even more people in, having the most prosperous between the teens and the 20s, and having many famous oil men such as Wayne Phillips, Henry Ford Sinclair, and then also Thomas Gilcrease, which if you're from Tulsa, you know who those certain people are. So Legends of America said Tulsa was called home to almost 100,000 people and 400 different companies. The booming town boasted 2 daily newspapers, 4 telegraph companies, more than 10,000 telephones, 7 banks, 200 attorneys, and more than 150 doctors, as well as numerous other businesses. So leading years later, which led to this, from the oil, which led to a lot of development. Not only development in the white community, but development in the black community, which overall led to Black Wall Street. And for a city to be prospering, and not only a city, but for the black community to be prospering as much as they did in 1921 was unheard of. They had doctors, they had attorneys, they had real estate agents, they had everything that the white community had. Which leading into it, the main thing that happened with the Tulsa Race Massacre was a black man on an elevator, a white woman, something ended up happening, what the white woman screamed, which overall led to the black man going to jail. Many things more happened. White mob went out, black people went to help the black guy in jail, which led to a shot. And on June 1st, 1921 is when the white community went in and burned down the black community. TulsaHistory.org says 24 hours after the violence erupted, it ceased. In the wake of the violence, 35 blocks lay in charred ruins. More than 800 people were treated for injury, and contemporary reports of death began at 36. Historians now believe as many as 300 people may have died, but as many as 300 people may have died. But bringing it back to my first point, this is the main thing. It's not proven, but it's just speculated for how prosperous. It is argued that, not really argued, but just speculated that the black community was actually doing better than the white community at that time, and whatever really happened in between didn't really matter. They were personally just. It was more just that they were looking for an excuse to attack because they were more jealous. So through these three examples of Tulsa history, it shows that life is always changing. Not only that life is always changing, but it always shows its story. Through the Trail of Tears, through being forced out of their homes to Tulsa, to the oil wealth being known as the oil capital of the world, and to the black community having their house burned down, all happening years and years later. Which overall is hard to wrap your mind around and process what life actually has come to. Not only what life has come to, but it's really hard to think about. However, but the more we think about it, the more that we realize how it has become the way that it is. And through that, even if you are not from Tulsa, even if you are not from Tulsa, every city, every human, everything has a past that goes beyond itself. So where does your story lie?